Hey, Leadership on the Rocks community. All right, you know it and I know it. When you get the promotion, your organization's going to give you the title, the pay, and the people, but they won't necessarily equip you in how to lead. And this can leave you sitting in a valley of absolute overwhelm where you're fighting the same daily fires you always seem to be fighting. You feel like you just can't get ahead. Well, I get it. And that's why I created my 5-day leadership makeover challenge. If you take my leadership challenge in just 5 days, I'm going to show you the right proactive tools that you need to get ahead and to put out those daily fires that you're always fighting. In fact, I'm going to show you what it takes to get to the next level and get another promotion and increase your influence and impact. So it's super easy and it's free. Just go to leadershipontherocks.com/5 days. That's the number 5. So again, go to leadershipontherocks.com/5 days to join my 5-day leadership makeover challenge. So don't miss out on this challenge. Give me 5 days with you and go to leadershipontherocks.com/5 days.
I want to spread the word that false, lies, all of it. Like none of that is true. And the thing that has helped me most is not hustling more or pushing harder or, trying to get through the hard stuff. It's stopping and taking a moment to breathe and rest.
This is the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, where we equip and empower leaders like you to thrive in and create harmony between your professional and personal lives. I'm your host, Bethany Reese, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking with Rachel Baker about why creating some breathing room should be a priority in your leadership. Rachel Baker is a certified life coach, speaker, and author with a passion for servant-hearted women who are overwhelmed by all the things that they're juggling for everyone else. Her goal is to help them create some breathing room and set healthy priorities so they can reclaim time for themselves, guilt-free, while still getting things done. She is the host of Create Some Breathing Room, a podcast that provides encouragement, support, and resources for these amazing women. Rachel is also a wife, special needs mom, coffee addict, Enneagram 2 with a wing of 3, and a bookaholic. Her own life experiences have created a special place in her heart for fellow moms, chronic pain warriors, and women with ADHD. So let's welcome to the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, Rachel. Rachel, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
All right. Well, I got to say, especially to every listener out there, we all kind of feel like we are on that hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. Every day we get up, we're running, but we don't feel like we're really going anywhere. And I am a listener of your podcast. And just even saying, to create some breathing space and create that breathing room, I just immediately go, it helps me to breathe better.
Yeah.
Yes. And so everything that I'm learning from you on that podcast, it really made me think, hey, this is so good for leaders. Leaders are so high functioning. We go, 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 go. And so all the things that you've been talking about, that's why I wanted to have you on. So this episode is not for women, even though that's where you specialize. It is for leaders, all leaders, male, female, new, seasoned. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Guys, we have got to create some breathing room for ourselves. And so, Rachel, I really just want to start off by asking, I understand because I listen to your podcast, but help us in this podcast understand, what do you mean by the term breathing room?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for listening. And I'm so glad it has blessed you. That's my goal. I put the words out there. And I think, like a lot of people in the speaking space or the writing space, we share the things that we need to hear, the reminders that we need to have. And so this entire topic is absolutely born out of my own necessity as a wife and a mom and a teacher and a business owner. We wear so many hats. And I think anyone in a leadership position, male or female, we absolutely wear all the hats. And so as I started thinking about that feeling of like, I'm just running on the hamster wheel, I can't get off. Am I even making progress? You just feel like you go all day. Where did the day go? Did you get anything done? I don't know. My list was eternal. Did anything get crossed off? It's just all those things swirling in your head. And I could not put words to what it was I needed, other than like, I need a break. I need to stop.
You just described how I feel so often, and I'm sure everybody out there.
Yes, yes. And so when you are in charge of others or leading others in any capacity, I don't care what field you're in, there is you as a person, there is your personal life and whatever roles you have in that. And then there's the work that you do if you're in ministry as well. Like we just do so much, and we somehow think we can cram it all into a certain amount of time. And then if we work harder and we do more and we hustle at, we'll get there somehow eventually. And I want to spread the word that false, lies, all of it. Like none of that is true. And the thing that has helped me most is not hustling more or pushing harder or trying to get through the hard stuff. It's stopping and taking a moment to breathe and rest. And because I love the illustration of, people talk about pouring into others, right? Yes. We pour into other people. And so just take that literally. Think of a pitcher full of water pouring into different cups. That's what we're doing all day. We're pouring into this person and that person. And if you're leading a team of people, you are trying to pour into all of those people so that they are pouring into their people.
Absolutely.
Eventually, if you don't stop and head over to the faucet or wherever it is you're getting water and refill that pitcher, you've got nothing left to pour. Mm-hmm. And you're just coming out of this empty space. You're trying like every last little drop. I know I've got one more to give, but you just really don't. Mm-hmm. And at that point, whatever you think you've got to give, nobody wants it. Oh. They're holding out their cups. Please, I need whatever. You've got nothing left to give, but we keep pushing on as if we do, shaking the pitcher upside down or, whatever illustration
or that ketchup bottle, where you hit the bottom, surely it's going to come out.
Yes. Just one last drop. Yes. But whatever illustration you want to use, if that helps you, that one has worked for me to realize I got no drops left to give. Mm-hmm. And so we actually, and it has been proven, there are studies, literature out there on this, that we actually are less productive when we do try to push through and hustle harder and do more without pouring back into ourselves in the way that we need. If you're not being poured into, if you're not feeding your own spirit and soul in some way, resting your physical body, your mind, you've got nothing left in the tank.
Absolutely. I hope you're listening to everything she's saying, right? If you are the empty pitcher with nothing left, you cannot pour into other people. And as a leader, that's really what you're meant to do, is to pour into other people. And so this whole concept, help us to, you've kind of explained why it should be a priority. Mm-hmm. So now let's transition into, okay, all right, yes, I get it. If I'm empty, I have nothing to give, but how do I actually make it a priority? Like, you know how we say a lot of times, oh, God, family, those are my priorities. But how often we, spending time with God and family, usually work and even lesser things like work email get in the way. Mm-hmm. So how do we actually make it a priority to create that space so that we can be filled?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. And I love the practical questions. Like, that's what I'm like, yes, let's go. I'm going to do some things. Because like you said, it's easy to say, this is what I value. This is my priority. But kind of like with money, you say, this is what's important to me. I want to give. I want to be generous. But if you actually sit and look at your bank statement or your credit card statement and see where your money is going, that really speaks more to what you value and what you prioritize in your life. So, if I sit down and look at my statements, I'm like, holy cow, with the Starbucks. And, we talk about, you mentioned my coffee addiction. Legit, I've got to scale that back. And I realize I'm not spending as much in the giving and generosity as I am on coffee, maybe, or books. I love books. Just with that in mind, where is your time going? If you say God is a top priority for you, or you need space for, meditating or stretching, whatever it is for you that kind of calms you and centers you, how much time are you actually putting there? One of my favorite books around this topic is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I love it so much.
Have that book on the shelf.
Yes, it's so good. I just want everybody to read it. But one of the things he says in there that really just jumped off the page at me is he mentions those things like quiet time or doing a devotional time with God, those things that do kind of recenter us and pour back into our pitcher, right? And when we feel super busy, rushed, overwhelmed, there's not enough time to do all the things, those things that pour into us are, for whatever reason, the first thing to go instead of our first go-to. And I was like, that was beautiful wording, by the way,
so
John
true.
Mark. But just the validity of that statement is like, well, I don't have time to get everything done today, and I've got to do XYZ. So I guess there's no time for reading my Bible this morning, or there's no time to do my yoga, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We ditch that stuff. And then, so we've skipped the part where we are refilling the pitcher and jumped straight to the part where we're trying to pour into more cups.
Yeah.
But we didn't get anything to pour into the cups. And it's just this awful cycle. And we think we can continue in that. It ends up being a state of surviving instead of thriving and
absolutely
being able to serve others at the best of our ability.
And another that made me think of, there's this principle is so universal in everything, whether it's family, work, or faith, anything like that. But I've also heard it explained another way with an axe, right? If you have a dull axe and you go out to, chop down a tree or chop firewood or whatever, it's such a more difficult task than if you had taken the time to sharpen the axe in the first place.
Yes.
And so that's something that we have got to stop and get rid of that hurried busyness feeling and say, what can I do now to pour into myself, my skill sets, my faith, my mindset, to sharpen myself enough to be able to do the tasks more efficiently?
Yes.
And you're so spot on. I mean, it is the first thing to go. I'm so guilty of that too.
Same.
Gotta go.
Yes. Well, and I love that you talk about, your whole thing is building on the rocks, right? This idea of foundation, which as a woman with severe ADHD, and as someone who also coaches others in time management and clarity, one of the resounding universal things that comes up is we know what we want to do and we're jumping in to do it, but there are some foundational pieces that we have not put in place. So when you talk about the practical pieces of making this happen, it's like, yeah, I need to do that. I need to spend more time. I need to start my day with fill in the blank. What have you put in place to actually make that happen? So for me, if I know I want to start my morning with coffee and my Bible, I prep my coffee the night before and my Bible is sitting on the table so that when I get there in the morning, I've set my alarm at a certain time. I have to put those pieces in place and designate that time, or it absolutely is not going to happen. If I set my alarm to get up and get the kids ready for school and out the door, and then I've got work to do, and I'm already going. I haven't set that intention or scheduled that time. And a lot of, I would say, especially women, but I've worked with men who do this too. Part of what we do is we set appointments with others, right? That's part of being a leader. You have meetings with people, you talk through things, you sort through things. But things like quiet time for yourself or doing a hobby that brings you joy, right? That's another thing that can fill your cup. Things like that, we almost have to set appointments with ourselves to do it. I'm going to put it on the schedule as if it's an appointment with someone else. And then the illustration I like to say is you wouldn't set an appointment with someone you work with and then just not show up or cancel it at the last minute because you've got dishes to do or because you're tired or you respect them too much to just not show up or cancel at the last minute. So I want to encourage leaders to respect yourself enough to keep the appointments you set with yourself. If you can set an
love it.
appointment with yourself to read a book or do a hobby or have some quiet time, whatever it is that you need and enjoy to fill your picture back up, respect yourself enough to keep that appointment. And in turn, you know, for those of us who are helpers, Enneagram 2s who want to help other people, I have to remind myself I'm doing this so that I can then serve others.
Oh, I love that statement. I'm so into mantras. It's things that capture my thoughts to help reframe them so that I remember what's important. I want you to say that again. I do this so that. Is that what you said?
Yes, that's so that is my go-to phrase for everything. I am doing this for myself so that I can show up for others, or so that I can serve others as my best self. I do that in so many ways. You know, I'm getting ready to really have a season. I'm taking a sabbatical for a bit. I've got a lot of health stuff going on, and that is hard to do. If you are in a leadership position, it is hard to say, I have to take some time and heal. My body needs it. My mind needs it. And so I have to tell myself, I'm taking this season of healing so that I can come back to my people as a renewed version of myself, as a healthier version of myself. I'll be able to serve them better if I'm pouring into my own pitcher first.
Man, I love that. And my mind is just going wild with all the ways that applies. We say yes so much too often to everything, especially to things that are of lesser value. Yeah. And so all that stuff gets piled on. And I love that statement. I'm saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to schedule this. I'm going to be intentional in scheduling. I'm going to show up for myself so that I can then serve. And think about whenever you do go through hard seasons, because think about it. We all do, whether it's something going on with ourselves, our own bodies, because stress, man, jacks the body up. Right. Or maybe it's just with our family, you know, and then your employees or your teammates, your coworkers. Everybody's going to go through a different, you know, hardship where, number one, I love how you were saying, I'm going to do this, but you're being very vulnerable in that. We're not machines. We're not perfect. Yes, we do want to model grit. I know that that's a good buzzword out there, grit, but we are almost glorifying running our bodies completely down by taking on all these things and not saying no. So leaders, I encourage you to, one, grow that backbone to say, this is what's important. So I'm not going to say yes to everything and modeling that. But then when hardships come, modeling, hey guys, I've got to be honest with you. I need to take a step back to do this, but I fully trust you to help step in and collaborate to fill that gap. And then when somebody else on the team is going through that, it's the same. They feel comfortable enough to share, be vulnerable and share. And then the team comes and rallies around them to help carry that workload. I mean, can you imagine working in a culture like that?
It would be amazing. And that's one of the things that, you know, I'm getting ready to share with my people, or maybe by the time this is aired, I've probably shared it with my people. But that's one of the things is I talk about the importance of creating some breathing room in your life and having that time to focus on who you are, your God-given strengths, skills, and passions, and serving others from that place of joy. And if I just push through, if I am leading in that way, that's not the example I want to be leading with. And so that's a big piece of leadership, I think, is leading by example, practicing what you preach. You want others, you know, to do these things for themselves, take care of themselves in that way. We have to lead by example in that as well. And another thing that you mentioned got me thinking, sometimes, you know, it sounds very idyllic and frou-frou sometimes to be like, just create some breathing room and have time for yourself. Do some yoga.
Self-care, everybody.
Self-care, honey. That's right. Get your nails done. No, that's not where we're coming from. I think for me, especially in a very busy season, because let's get real, like life is busy. We can't just ignore responsibilities and go get our nails done and whatever. That's not real life. So sometimes that self-care piece or me creating breathing room looks like, maybe I'm not starting with like yoga and meditation and things. Maybe I'm just starting with my calendar in front of my face and thinking through the things, because you've mentioned like checking emails and some of these lower priority tasks that we really ramp up to the top of the list. Mm. But if I can look at everything that needs to get done in my day and really prioritize it, what is urgent, what is important, or maybe it's urgent but not so important. Could I delegate that? Maybe it's important but not so urgent. Let's move that to next week, right? To just have a few moments to actually sort through the tasks on my desk and put them where they actually need to live, instead of they're all in my head, they're all in my face, my hair is on fire, and I just try to knock things out like a crazy person.
And you know what you're making me think of? You're reminding me of Jackie Chan, right? The actor who does his own stunts.
Love him.
Like, he is just so fluid in everything he does and how he jumps on places and does kicks and flips and just everything that he does. You are sitting here giving us such amazing advice that is like the Jackie Chan ninja of productivity and time management, and just to kind of go back, one, we got to schedule, be intentional and schedule. Mm-hmm. But two, like you were saying, start with taking the time to look at all the chaos, all these things. Like, seriously, I want you to imagine in your mind, like one of those ninja movies with all the bad guys like flying towards this Jackie Chan character.
I love it.
He is just like, no, yes, you come in, we're going to wrap you up. And that's what you're reminding me of as you're talking about your example. And that's what we got to do. All of these demands that are flying at us, sit down and organize them. So keep talking to us, sister. I just had to throw that out because as you're talking, that's all I can picture in my head. It's like, you're Jackie Chan.
I love it so much. That's one of the things I love listening to your podcast, Bethany, is I love where your mind goes and the illustrations and the imagery that you come up with as people are talking. Because it helps me go like, oh yeah, that is what that looks and feels like. So I love
sorry, my brain is warped.
I love it. You know what? If that's what warped is, I'm here for it. So sign me up. But that it can feel like a work thing to organize your tasks. Mm-hmm. But I do very much as a leader feel like that is a self-care task. I feel like that is allowing me to create some breathing room in my day, because if I look at it all and I realize I can delegate this, I can move this to next week, that's not as urgent as I felt like it was now that I look at it, writing it all down on paper instead of having the swirling chaos is, I think, the biggest first step that a lot of people skip. So again, back to those foundational rock pieces, get the chaos out of your head and actually deal with it in a calm way first. Find it a home and then go through your day. So, because then maybe you've only got 4 or 5 things on today's list instead of the 25 that were swirling in your head. And it just brings mental clarity. It brings that sense of peace. You go through your day a little calmer and less defensive and irritated. And you're like, this is what's on my plate today. Oh, are you coming at me with something else? Is it actually an urgent right now thing, or can that wait till tomorrow for me to think through it? Yeah. Just taking that's breathing room, right? Just taking a minute to breathe through it instead of instinctively reacting. Yes. That proactive piece makes all the difference in the world.
That's so good. I am on this journey to restore my health after years of, let's just call it abuse.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. And going back to your point of what you said earlier, oftentimes podcasters, writers, speakers, things like that, we talk about the thing that we need help in, right? Like we're just sharing our journey in that area. So it's totally true of me with leadership. Whenever I was first an administrator, I let things, and I just picked up every single problem, everything that flew at me, I just carried it. And I realized I can't carry that load. And it did some damage to my body. So as I'm on this journey to restore the body and the health, in a lot of exercise videos, they remind you as you're working out, they're like, now breathe. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to breathe. Like you're sitting there, whether you're doing crunches or lunges or whatever it is. I love it that they're reminding you, hey, you got to take a breath. And everything you're saying, that's what it made me think of is, hey, as you're doing important work and you're getting things done, you got to take a breath.
Yeah, well, it's the same idea of, we're working so hard at the thing. And so if you're exercising, you're working so hard to get your body to move in a certain way. And it's like, oh, yeah, don't forget to breathe through it. It's the same thing when you are juggling so much. And as someone in a leadership position, you feel like it's all your responsibility. It's all yours. And I mean, in a sense, it is. And also, in a sense, you can not have to carry all of it on your own. And I think really the biggest things I would recommend in this space are just to pause long enough to live proactively instead of reactively, and to be intentional with your time and day, because that serves you, but it also serves everyone around you, everyone who's looking to you and coming to you. Then you can get more in the place of reminding them to live in, like, are you reacting to this situation right now? Can we take a hot second to think through it? That, I think, is a beautiful piece of leadership that has been lost in a lot of places.
It's so true. I mean, again, things are just flying at us. To be proactive in our day and deciding ahead of time what's important, what's not, and being intentional in that. And I just keep going back to the first thing you said, schedule it. If you don't schedule it, if you don't make time for it, it's not a priority. You can say it all day long, but if you don't do it, if you don't do what you say, then it really means nothing, right? It's just useless words. I love that. And let's talk about some things. So how do we decide what those priorities are? Whenever you have a lot of things flying at you, you specifically talk to moms because, moms are like CEOs of the family today, and most moms work outside the home. But this applies to leaders. Leaders, you are leading a team. So not only do you have your own work to do, you're leading teams that have their work to do. And then now you've got to have all these reports to the people above you about how's progress made towards our results. And it's a lot of things. And so I want to talk about all the things. And that was even in your bio, because we all feel that whenever we're like, so tell us about your stress. Well, it's all the things.
Right.
And I actually, I couldn't remember this Bible verse. I'm such an avid person of conceptually remembering Bible verses, but I'm like, I can't remember where it is. So I had to look this up because as I was thinking about talking to you and you mentioned all the things, I'm like, I want to know this verse. So it's 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. And it says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by anything. Now, in there, it's talking about, immorality, food, drink, God's, our stomach is not our God kind of thing. So it's very applicable for me in my health journey with food and drink. But I also really think it applies to work, especially the part of the verse of not all things are helpful. And I think we're confused. Busyness doesn't equal productivity.
Girl.
Yeah, I knew it. See, I knew. I've heard you enough. I'm like, I'm gonna need you to share some wisdom in this space. So go pour it out.
Yeah, you want a whole sermon right now? Let's know. I 100% believe that busyness has been glorified to the unhealthiest level. Just because you are busy doesn't mean you're actually doing anything. I mean, my son is almost 13, my daughter is 15. And if I'm asking them to clean their room, they can keep busy that whole, like, for an hour. And I'm like, have you done anything? Well, yeah, nothing has been cleaned, but they've been busy that entire time. And so I think of that in our work. We can stay super busy, but haven't actually accomplished much of anything or moved closer towards goals. And so again, it goes back to that piece of having the breathing room and the space to take a hot second and say, what are our underlying values? It's those foundational pieces. What are the goals? What needs to happen today, this week? By the end of this week, this should be accomplished. That would be great. And I also think it's good to have different levels of goals. And you can't have too many goals. Some people, it's like, what's your goal for today? Well, I've got like 10. That's not going to work. Like, it's just logistically, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really have more than 3 top things for a day. You know, if these 3 things happen, I have dominated the day. Anything else above that is, you know, excess, gravy, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think, for one, acknowledging that just logistically, practically, you can only do so much in a time period. Let's get that truth through our heads, because we like to think we can do more than we can. I'm guilty of it. My to-do lists are so long. And so that piece of taking a minute and saying, what has to happen today? Oh, I have to pay the electricity bill or they're going to cut my lights off. I wanted to get some of the weeds in the garden pulled, but nothing's going to explode if I don't do that thing. And so with a lot of my coaching clients, we talk about juggling all these balls or spinning all of these plates, right? When we talk about all the things. So we're doing a lot of imagery today. I hope it's helpful, but we're just living in imagery land today. But if you think about spinning all of these plates in the air, and it's never fails that something's going to drop. You're going to drop a plate or 5. It's just going to happen.
And let's hope you're like me and you have some plastic plates.
Well, that's the thing. When you look at all the plates that you're spinning, you have to really identify which ones are made of glass. And if you drop it, it will shatter. And there's no really repairing that. And which ones are made of plastic, or if your balls, you know, glass and rubber, however you want to think of it. It's okay if I drop this one. It'll bounce. I can pick it back up. The world's not going to end. But if I drop this one, like, that's a game over or bad consequences, or, you know, really think through that piece of it. And so part of it is not having too many of those things on your day, being honest with yourself, and acknowledging which ones are actually crucial, which ones are glass, and which ones you can pick up if they drop. Deal with it later.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I just love all of that. You have shared so many helpful things. And so, you know, we're an educator like I was. And so we got to recap this because you've shared so much wisdom. So what are some key takeaways as we think about all the things? And I love that. I'm going to start using air quotes, all the things. You know, the Saturday Night Live hashtag all the things.
Yes.
As we think about all the things, what are some key takeaways, again, on how we create that space to be able to accomplish what's important?
Yeah, I love that. You know, I love a good recap. I definitely like to leave people with practical, actionable steps. So I would say, first of all, just respecting yourself and acknowledging that you are worth creating some breathing room for. You are worth taking a hot second. You work really hard, and it's okay. This is, if you need it, like, this is your permission slip, sliding it through the microphone to pause and think about, what is it that you lack? Do you need a moment to breathe, or to do a hobby, or whatever it is? You've got to fill your cup, fill your pitcher before you can pour into others. And so that mindset piece, I think, is like, just take a second and live with it and accept your permission slip. And then practically, to just keep in mind that productive and busy are not the same thing. And if you can begin your day with a proactive, intentional spirit, take a few minutes to look at what is on your plate, which ones are made of glass and which ones are plastic or rubber. Find homes for things on your calendar. And then those things that are for you, you respect yourself enough to show up for those appointments and make it happen. Did I get it all?
You did. And the whole time I just like want to, you know, put my head on my hands and just go, and just breathe and say, I can do that. That's good.
Come on, let's go. We can do it. And that
man.
Leading with this spirit and mindset and intentionality will filter through your people. Encourage that same spirit in your people, and it won't feel as hectic and busy, but I guarantee you will see productivity go way up because morale is better, spirits are better, people are taking care of themselves and filled and have more to give at a higher quality. It's just a beautiful thing to watch happen.
It is. It is. And guys, you can do this. All right. So, Rachel, you've given us such great advice. Now let's go the opposite. What is one poor decision? What is something that you're like, leaders, don't do this. Come on, you're better than that. Like, what should we not do?
I would say don't say yes to everything.
Ooh,
that's because when
you went straight for like the heart of the thing that we struggle
we're not playing
with.
around. We're not playing around here. One thing that I heard from someone, and I've heard it multiple places, but it sticks with me, is when you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. And so to be mindful of the things that you are saying yes to, where does it fit? Do you actually have capacity for that? Is that something someone else could help with instead of you because you have all this other going on? So just to be mindful, yes to one thing means no to something else. Are you giving your yeses in the right place? Because as we've said, you literally logistically cannot say yes to everything.
If you keep saying yes to all those appetizers, you're going to be full by the time the important stuff comes, right?
Know,
the main meal.
I hate it when I fill up on the chips and salsa and then the food, but I really like chips and salsa. I feel that.
I understand. I said it because I feel it the most. Right. All right, Rachel, where can our listeners go to learn more about you and your work?
Well, I have my website, racheldbaker.com. Everything is there. You can access the podcast and the blog and resources, everything there. I've got some free resources just because I like to give people stuff. I am most active probably on Instagram, and I love connecting with people in the DMs there. So on Instagram, it's at rachel.d.baker. And that's probably where I'm the most active.
Gotcha. And I'll have links in the show notes, guys, so you can remember all those dots.
All the dots.
This has been so wonderful. I adore you. I love what you're doing. I know you're helping me personally, and I feel like you're my own personal coach in this space so that I can breathe better because I have made that room for breathing. So thank you so much for being here. I have just so enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me, I can talk about this all day, every day. So thanks for this avenue and the opportunity to speak to your people on it.
I appreciate it. All right. Well, guys, until next time, continue putting in the work of building your life and leadership on the rocks, the essential rocks. God bless. Remember, the most essential rock you can build your life and leadership on is the rock of Jesus Christ. Today's Bible verse comes from Psalms chapter 127, verse 2. It is useless for you to work so hard from early morning until late at night, anxiously working for food to eat, for God gives rest to his loved ones. Hey, it's Bethany again. If you're enjoying the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode. Also, be sure to rate the show. We hope to earn 5 stars in serving you in leadership, and through your ratings, it'll help us get the word out about what we do here at Leadership on the Rocks. If you feel this podcast is helpful, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and coworkers, or anyone who wants to grow in leadership, but also have harmony between their work and home life. Thanks, and I'll see you again in the next episode.